Wow, again? Why is that my reaction recently? It's because Onyx just recently announced that they got listed in yet another exchange. Now, nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Again, this is just purely my perspective, but at the same time, we recently saw Onyx get listed on Upbit, but now Onyx has announced that they've been listed on a place called Aster. Now, why does this, I think, have any sort of importance when it comes to Onyx? Well, it's because in terms of an exchange, there's two categories that are very famous. The first being a centralized one, which Upbit is. Another example would be like Binance, or let's say in the case of Kraken and many others. Again, those are examples of exchanges that are centralized. Now, when it comes to the one that's decentralized, we have to consider, yes, there's many, but according to CoinMarketCap, the number one DEX token, DEX meaning decentralized exchange, and that is allegedly Aster. So we have to think about that. That's very massive. We just saw the number 3 ranked in the world in terms of a spot exchange in the case of Upbit recently listing Onyx. And that ranking, by the way, is according to CoinMarketCap the last time I checked. And then now we're seeing Aster, which again, in terms of a DEX, which is spelled DEX, and that stands for, again, decentralized exchange, in terms of DEX tokens, again, according to CoinMarketCap, Aster is number 1. So when it comes to Onyx, again, back to back right there, we saw Upbit, and then now we're seeing Aster. I think that right there is just pretty impressive, actually, at the end of the day, when it comes to Onyx, because the more places it's listed, hypothetically, the more people could know about it, right? It doesn't mean that everyone will care or would even bother paying attention to it, but I'm just saying, still, in theory, the more places it's listed, I would arguably say that it's sometimes better than just advertising elsewhere, because we see a lot of other projects out there, they don't have good listings, but they keep advertising through athletes, through celebrities, on billboards and stuff like that. But what does that really do if there is no easy access in some cases? But besides that point, people like to tell me, well, okay, if that's so amazing what Onyx just recently accomplished as of late, why is it down almost 8% in the past 24 hours? Now, here's my response. Of course, when Onyx got listed on Upbit, we saw what happened, right? It had a pretty decent recovery, and now we're seeing an almost 8% pullback in the past 24 hours. But at the same time, we have to consider an almost 20% recovery in the past 7 days. Is that really considered so bad? And that's considering right now. That's not considering the recent peak that we saw when it comes to Onyx that was as a result of that recent Upbit listing, right? So an almost 20% recovery, especially as of right now when the market still isn't being considered to be doing the best, and also at the same time when Bitcoin is struggling to even, surpass 80 grand in any sort of meaningful way, given all those conditions, I wouldn't say this is like so bad. I mean, we're seeing a lot of other projects out there. They've been down like 20% in the past 7 days in some cases. Onyx, it's done quite the opposite, actually, right? Again, despite the slight pullback, it's still recovered almost 20% in the past 7 days. So am I really complaining? No, because a lot of people like to say, well, it's done for, it's game over, it's cooked and all this. But keep in mind, again, right? When Onyx just had that slight recovery not too long ago, everyone was saying, oh, wow, they thought it was cool again. But now that it's having an almost 8% pullback in the past 24 hours, they say it's cooked again. But here's the thing. I think, if anything, what we saw recently showcases how quickly sometimes the sentiment could change. And that's even without an altcoin season and also even without a massive change in market sentiment. So it already did that. So what would happen if it's like an actual altcoin season, hypothetically, or if, let's say, the market sentiment really changed in a very impressive way? I think what I saw recently in terms of the change in terms of sentiment, if that's just maybe a taste, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. And also, let's consider, why is more listings arguably better, in my opinion? Well, it's because, let's take a look at some examples, like in the case of Shiba Inu, in the case of Dogecoin, in the case of Cardano's native token called ADA. Sure, they had a very good community years ago. They had a good following. But especially in 2021, we saw what happened, right? They went on a rally. The thing is this, would that have been possible without good listings? Arguably, I still think that it would have maybe still hypothetically did something even without the impressive listings, but I don't think it would have reached the heights that it did. That's the thing, because the more listings, the more people could hypothetically know about it. I don't think good listings are a bad thing. That's just the basic gist of it. But even besides that, people like to say, but if Onyx doesn't do anything in the next couple of days or whatever, it's cooked. But that's not my mindset because I have more so of a long-term approach when it comes to Onyx. I've been holding for quite a while, and seeing Onyx come this far in terms of developing fundamentally, like for instance, launching the mainnet of Goliath, which is a layer one blockchain that's arguably really focused on the global trade and finance space, and also seeing the new listings that it recently saw, like for instance, in the case of Upbit and as well as Aster. So when I take a look at that right there, that culmination right there, again, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in terms of what it has done so far, fundamentally speaking. Now, in terms of the charts, has it been looking the best? Not necessarily. I mean, it's seen a pretty okay recovery, but it's not the best. But I don't mind because my mindset isn't, oh, what could this do in the next couple of days or in the next couple of weeks? My mindset, if need be, is maybe even years. We'll wait and see. I mean, what happens. But I'm just saying, I don't mind waiting because I'm treating this more so of like a long-term thing for me. I'm not treating it like, oh, I'm just going to be here a couple of days, couple of weeks, then I'm out. That's not my style. What I want to do is I just want to stay consistent, patient, and wait. That's it. However long it might be, you know what? I can't control that, but I'll gladly wait. But one thing I do know, though, is that when it comes to Onyx, as of right now, it's approximately 5 times less than where it once was last year in terms of market cap. So around 5 times lower, basically. 5 times lower? I mean, this is the thing. Is Bitcoin around 5 times lower than its all-time high? No, it's not, right? Neither is Ethereum. So if let's say I'm believing in Ethereum and Bitcoin and Onyx in a pure hypothetical, and let's say they could only just return back to their peak last year, let's say in a pure random hypothetical, would I be choosing Bitcoin or Ethereum in that specific scenario? Yeah, I don't know if I would actually, just because, again, if they went back to their all-time high, I think, wow, so fantastic. But at the end of the day, Onyx just goes back to where it once was last year, which, by the way, around $1 billion in terms of market cap is not the all-time high market cap when it comes to Onyx. But even besides that, we've seen it actually reach higher before, but that was many years ago. Sometimes people don't really care about that, but I'm just saying, where it once was last year at its peak, it's around 5 times lower than that. But that's just my mindset. So when it comes to Onyx, I just don't want to give up. I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait, but I'll gladly wait. Because if I take a look at Onyx, it's focused on global trade and finance, primarily speaking. Other projects like Zebic, like Stellar, like XDC, like Ripple, they're also primarily focused on that. So when it comes to Onyx, I don't think that the narrative is like outdated. I don't think that the narrative is like cooked or something like that. If Onyx's narrative is quote unquote cooked, as some people like to say, does that mean that Zebic, XDC, Stellar, Ripple also have a cooked narrative? A lot of people would arguably say no, right? So when it comes to Onyx, I don't think it's cooked either, but this is just personally my perspective. And I'll actually even show a video that, I made when it comes to Onyx not that long ago. Last year, actually, when I made that video, I was around 55 pounds more. So yeah, besides that point though, so we haven't really seen a massive change in market sentiment yet. We haven't seen an altcoin season, hypothetically, yet during this cycle, but I'm still waiting. And I'm not telling anyone to anything, but I'll still be sure to make more updates when it comes to Onyx. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.